Hey, what is going on, everybody? It's Jacob. In this video, I'm going to give you some very powerful content creation tips for all of the content that you're putting out on social media, okay? Now, before we jump into this, I want to preface it with, I'm going to assume that you are putting content out because you want to make money, okay? If you're putting content out because you just enjoy it and it's a hobby and you're trying to grow a big audience, but you've never really got any plans to monetize, you don't need to watch this video. This isn't for you. This is for people who create content because it is a key part of growing an audience that can generate leads and be converted into buyers to grow a actual online business, okay? So if that's you, stick around in this one because we're going to cover some stuff that you will not hear in other places, okay? I'm going to roll the intro. We'll dive into it. All right, what's going on, everybody? So before we jump into it, if you could all go ahead and smash the like button right now, that would be much appreciated. It genuinely helps get the content out to more people, and this is going to be a very helpful video, okay? So content is something that is spoken about a lot in the internet marketing kind of circles, social media marketing, all that kind of stuff. Everyone talks content, right? Content is, you know, the new currency, all that kind of stuff. If you don't have any attention, you don't have anything, blah, blah, right? So here's the thing. Content is a fascinating topic. But what I have found in creating content myself for the last 3 years and using content to build a 7-figure business is that what gets spoken about when it comes to content isn't really what works when it comes to monetizing content, okay? Now look, as I said off the top, if you want to just go out and put out content to build a following with no plan to monetize it, you can ignore this advice. But if you are creating content because you want to sell stuff, this is really going to help you out, okay? You see, the content that most people create simply isn't structured and geared in a way that has the necessary elements that will eventually get people to pull out their credit card and buy stuff. Right? They're not going deep enough into the psychology behind it. They're not going deep enough into the stuff that they need to be talking about, which, you know, sets off some things in your audience's head that builds a connection with your brand, and then kind of taking them down a pathway where they they really feel compelled to buy your stuff. A lot of people stick with surface level how to kind of value-based content, and that's fine. It has its place in an overall content strategy. But on its own, it is not the most effective way to monetize your audience. It will generate you some sales, but it is not going to create a really strong bond with your audience. It is not going to make your brand stand out. It is not going to allow you to charge premium prices. And it is really not the most effective type of content that you can be investing your time in, okay? And that's the really important point there, is that's where most people are lumping their time when it needs to be on this other thing that I'm about to talk to you about, okay? So there's a couple of reasons why that's not where you want to be spending the bulk of your time. So with that all said, okay, Jacob, fine, how-to content isn't where it's at. Value-based content isn't where it's at necessarily. What do I need? Okay, here it is. You have to shift people's perspectives. All right, I'll repeat it. You have to shift people's perspectives. There is nothing more powerful than a piece of content that presents a slightly unique view on something or a completely contrarian view on a topic that is important to your audience and causes a light bulb to go off in their head, and they say, holy shit, I'd never thought about it that way, right? I'd never thought about blah until Jacob told me blah, right? I'd never thought was true until Jacob told me. When you are responsible for setting those light bulbs off in your audience's head, and showing them that there's a different path. A lot of this content is geared towards breaking down myths, industry standards and industry norms, lies that kind of get perpetrated by the masses, which sounds counterintuitive because you'd think if a lot of people were talking about it, it would be more likely to be accurate and true, but that's not the case. So if you can identify what these are in your market and then show people the truth, the better way, all those kind of things, we can talk about that more in a second, you are going to develop this massive connection with your audience. And that is a hell of a lot more stronger than the person who just shows them how to, set up a Facebook group. Right? Now, like I said, that how-to stuff has its place, but that's coming. You've got this much deeper level connection when you give people those types of epiphanies. Okay, so how does this work? So whatever market you're in, whatever niche that you're playing in, there's going to be a set of norms. There's going to be some myths, right, that just exist and people just believe them. There's going to be basically like a profile of things that people just believe to be true, and that's what 95% of people talk about and 95% of people believe. On the flip side, ideally, with you as a business owner, a product creator, a coach, whatever it is that you do, you have your own way of doing things, or you should. You have your own expertise, you have your own information, you have your own knowledge from experiences and all the things that you've done or are currently doing. If those are different to what the masses are talking about, which in a lot of cases they will be, because the masses typically talk about things that don't necessarily work, and if you've really cracked open the game that you play in, you're going to have views on, well, no, that's a load of shit. This is how it actually works. And when you start to really list those things out and then integrate them into your content, what's going to happen is you're going to start poking holes in the norms. You're going to start poking holes in what everyone thinks to be true. You're going to start poking holes in these kind of mass delusions that exist in different markets, and then simply showing people, there's an alternative. There's a different way to go about it. When you do that, here's what's going to happen. People are going to come along. They're going to watch your content. They're either going to go, that's stupid, I disagree, and they're going to stop paying attention to you or leave, right? And they may leave a, snide comment on the way out. Or, and this is where it becomes really powerful, you'll successfully set the light bulb off, ding, and then instantly, and from that moment forward, you are the person that changed their perspective on topic A, B, or C that is very, very important to that individual, okay? So if you think about that, how much more likely are they to pay attention to you going forward if they've now got this big part of their head that's taken up by, this topic that they're really passionate about, and you've just completely shifted their perspective on the truth about, some piece of it or the whole thing, right? Depending on what the individual piece of content is about or what your viewpoint is about. You've just completely shifted their perspective on something that is critically important to them and they are very, very passionate about. You are now going to be taking up a serious chunk of real estate in their head when it comes to that topic, okay? So consider it like hooking content. That's the type of content that does the sifting and sorting for you, right? It's going to attract the people who either currently think that way like you do, or are in a headspace where they're ready to be converted to your way of thinking, and it's going to push away the people who will never think the way you do or simply aren't ready to think that way yet. It may happen in the future. Sometimes we need to go through certain things before we can be ready to hear a particular piece of advice. That's a topic for another day, but it's going to do the sifting and sorting for you, right? And it's going to start to convert people around to your way of thinking, okay? So that's how you bring new people into your audience through content, but then when they come in, they're going to have a really, really strong affinity for you and your brand, and they're going to be much more likely to pay attention, right? Now you're standing out from the crowd. Now you're not just another person talking about that topic. The benefits just go on and on and on and on, okay? From there, now we can get into the full swing of our, more normal content, right? We can double down on those beliefs. We can share stories, we can share testimonials, we can share case studies that just consistently reinforce and amplify this belief set, right? Which is either going to just continue to grow it for the people that already had it, right? Or it's just going to keep reinforcing for the people who you've flipped over to your way of thinking that, yeah, this is the right way to be thinking about this. And I'm glad I've, had my perspective changed. So it's that type of content starts to strengthen the relationship. And then that's how you can start to integrate your how-to content and make offers, okay? But now when you drop that how-to content, now when you drop that value-based content, because you've helped them, see through the bullshit and see through the myths and see through the, the common pitfalls that the masses are all falling into, that how-to content isn't just the same, commodity type content that everybody else is putting out there, because it's from you. The person that gave them that massive perspective shift. Okay? So that is a critically important chunk of content that if you want to be selling through your content and monetizing your content, you must be including. Okay? So the things to look at there are, what are the myths that are out there in the industry, right? What are the common pitfalls that people are falling into because they believe this certain thing, or they believe that this certain way of going about things is the only way to do it? What are the industry standards? What are the industry norms, right? All of these things that just exist, and they're kind of unspoken truths that people just believe because they're there, or because that's the way things have been done for a long time, right? What can you identify that fits under those banners in your market, in your niche, that you can start to, pick holes in and say, here's why my way of thinking is better. Right, which ideally would be in line with your products and your services and those kind of things, okay? If you start to integrate that type of content, you're going to need way less leads, you're going to need way less views or likes or whatever. You are going to be able to charge way more because you're unique, right? You've got a unique perspective on the world, you've got a unique solution. You're not just selling the same thing as everybody else. It's going to completely shift your content strategy and your business. Really powerful. Okay? You don't even need to, it doesn't even require that much of a change. It's just another bucket of content that you need to start integrating. Right? And you do that and watch how the dynamic with your audience changes. You might attract some attention that you don't want, but it's also going to bring you a lot of attention that can make you a lot of money. Right, now this is assuming you've got a good offer in place. This is assuming you've got a good sales process in place, all that kind of stuff. This little tweak to your content can make a massive difference. Okay, so think about how you can integrate this. Sit down, grab a cup of tea, grab a glass of wine, whatever you're into, and start listing what are all the things that people talk about that I know the masses believe to be true, and I know they're not, and that alternative perspective is in line with what I do and what I sell. That is a really powerful exercise that, when integrated into your content, will make a massive difference. Okay, give that one a go. I've got some other videos on my channel about content you might want to check out as well if you're particularly interested in that field. Other than that, if you want to jump into any of the programs that I run, if you sell your own courses, coaching, check out the Fast Cash Rolodex, check out the 7-Figure Sales Weapon. These are all programs that are geared towards monetization, geared towards selling more. And when you combine the raw strategy that's covered in those programs with, the content approach that we've just spoken about, you take your monetization to a whole new level. Okay, that's what we really try to focus on here, is monetization. That's why you're in business. But tackling those monetization things directly, not going around them, like not avoiding them so we can talk about other things and then hope that it kind of leads back to a monetization opportunity. No, we tackle it directly. Okay, check out those programs. Links are in the description. Give this a go in your content. Give it some time. Let it build up some momentum. Think about how you can integrate it into your offers. Like make sure there's a connection between the perspectives that you're changing for people, and the things that you're selling, and the components of the things that you're selling. Okay, make sure there's that connection there, and it'll work really well. Okay, if this set off any light bulbs for you in relation to content, be sure to smash the like button. It'd be much appreciated. And check out the links in the description if you want to sell more stuff in your information marketing business. I'll see you on the next video. Cheers.